All right. Could we get the rest of the people to identify themselves, just so we have that for the minutes?
Hi,
And you are?
my name's Kelly Gigante. But I'm
Hi,
on,
Kelly.
hi, I'm on under Garwin. That's my husband.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi,
Yep.
Kelly.
Hi.
Talked to you on the phone, but never met you.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
Jan.
Oh, Jan, I'm sorry.
Figured it out, Ian.
And I think, Justin, we just need to have you tell us who.
Hi, Justin Bennett, BBS Accounting.
Oh, thank you, Justin. Should
Yeah.
have known that.
I guess we've got Joe Menachino on. I'm assuming that's you, Joe.
Hi, Dan, thank you. I don't have any video with this computer. And
That's
I'm
okay.
also actually on another meeting, so I'm going to stay on mute. I just wanted to listen. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. And we've got Larry Seiler. Is that correct?
Hey, good evening, Dan. How you doing? That's correct.
Good. How-
Hey, Larry.
and
Hey, Tim. How you doing?
I
Good.
think we know everybody else, right, Jan?
Yes, I believe we do.
Okay, I'm going to call the public hearing to order to convene that. And the purpose of the public hearing is regarding the franchise agreement with Spectrum. And the proposal from the town board is to continue that agreement as it has been in the past, with no franchise fee assessed. And so if anybody wants to comment on that, now's your chance. Okay, in the absence of any comments, then we'll close the public hearing, and then during the regular meeting, we'll go ahead and adopt that franchise fee as a continuation of what we have had for the last 15 minutes. So I'm going to call the public hearing to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second it,
Okay,
Dan.
Bill. Good. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good, okay. So the public hearing is closed, and we'll go to open the regular meeting. And as is our custom, it's not big, but it's genuine. We'll pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
The
States.
United States of America.
To the
To the
republic
for which it
For which
stands,
it stands,
one
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 nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with
liberty,
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Okay. Thank you all. So we have a couple of guests tonight, and I'd like to take them in the order that we set them up. And the first would be Justin Bennett, representing Baldwin Bookkeeping Services, correct, Justin?
Yeah, BBS Accounting.
Okay, that's easier. Okay, you're on.
All right, did you guys get the handouts that I sent over?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want me to go through the entire process, or are you guys, got just spot questions, or how do you want to run this?
Well, do you have a canned song and dance you give, or you just respond to what's necessary, what is asked of you?
I typically run through the timeline of duties, that page. That one basically sums up the majority of what we do.
Why don't you start with that?
Okay. So that first block up there, you see the first half of the page. That's stuff that just reoccurring, happens every week, every month, on there. So we do typically we do the payroll.
Okay, hang on just a minute. What are we looking at now, Justin?
The timeline of duties.
Yeah, was that a separate handout?
Should
No,
have been pages.
I think it was the third, fourth page.
Okay, hang on.
That one, which is backwards on camera.
I can share it on the screen if that would be helpful for others.
I'm looking at the,
Oh, the fourth page, the last one.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages of financial statements.
Yep. And then there should be 6 more of a budget. Then there should be 1 of a supervisor report. And then
Okay,
2
so-
pages of timeline.
Okay,
There it is.
You know, that's the one.
okay,
All right, so starting there in the beginning, payroll is typically sent over somebody, either supervisor or town clerk or whoever is the direct contact in there that handles the payroll, consolidates the timesheets in that and gets us either a summary page, a summary page and timesheets, or just a summary page, sends it over to us to process payroll. If you send over just a summary sheet, then, then we just operate off that. If you send over the summary sheet and timesheets, then we will flip back and forth just to verify stuff. We process the payroll. We send back over, we email encrypted the pay stubs for direct deposit people, and we send over the paper checks via a digital encrypted email. The person, the contact on the other end, whether it's a supervisor or the town clerk or whoever, it's gonna be the direct contact on that side, would put in the password, download the files, and then they just have blank check stock for the paper checks. They print them on that. We provide all the check stock and all the envelopes for printing. You
so
print-
no, so we're printing out the checks in the town building?
Correct. We can do it by mail, but typically the timeline is a little bit long on payroll.
Yeah,
How-
that's okay, that's okay, I just want to make sure. And we
Yeah,
send the payroll information to you electronically?
preferably email, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yep. So you send it over and we process the payroll, and then we will send back an email with the reports that show the breakdown of who got paid, what allocation they got paid from. It'll cluster each allocation to see how much you spent on each allocation. And that'll be the payroll reports. And then there'll be a file in there for the direct deposit people, which are pay stubs. And you just print them on plain paper and they go right in our envelopes. They line up perfectly so then they can distribute.
okay,
And then the direct deposit, the non-direct deposit, the paycheck people, their checks, you just put the blank check stock in, hit print, you fold them up, stick them in the same envelopes as the direct deposit ones can go in. And you can pass them, or well, somebody's got to sign them there, a signer on the account,
right, okay,
signs them, hands them out. And then each quarter for payroll, we process the quarterly reports. We submit the New York 45s, the 941, all that type of stuff. Every quarter we send to the county because the county needs your workers' comp data, so they need a copy of your quarterly. So we send that over to them directly. Once a year, the guy from Allegheny County comes out and does an assessment of payroll, goes over how many hours you got paid and everything. So he typically likes to come in here because he can do, have, 9 or 10 towns at once for Allegheny County.
okay, now run that past me again, who's that, and what's the purpose of that?
We're, your county handles your workers' comp. You basically kind of self-insure through Allegheny County. So they
Okay,
an audit every year to look and see how many hours you paid out and what job classifications so that they can adjust your rate based on,
okay,
yeah. So he has to come out and go through your payroll. Instead of him going to each town, he comes here, the towns we work with, and catch them.
okay,
It's not a big deal, but it's just a little value added. Monthly, we submit the retirement. So we will go in, submit the wages, submit the work history, the days worked and all that for each employee that's in the New York State retirement.
Okay,
So that, and then the end of the year, we'll do up the W-2s, print them all up, finish out the year-end reports and send them out. You know, we process all that in-house, no extra charges, part of the main fee. So, then I think the next thing on here, so vouchers. So each month at your board meeting, you approve the vouchers. So vouchers are typically created in-house. You guys attach them to the invoice. You guys approve them at the board meetings. Then we have to get some sort of either a summary of what was approved or towns send us the physical. Like the town of Almond, they just scan the whole thing and send us the file. So we have the voucher and the invoice in a digital file. We create digital checks, send them back, and then you print on the same blank check stock. We have some towns that actually the next day, they throw the whole bundle in a priority envelope, ship it off to us. We get it, process it, and ship it back. But that has a little longer turnaround time with the mail system.
now my understanding is that when we send you the vouchers, it's our job to indicate the account that gets charged for each of these expenditures, right?
Correct. We do review them when we're going through them. And if something just doesn't click, we will just ask you about it. Say, is this really what you were thinking? You know, like as long as we see the invoice and stuff. If you send us just a summary page that says, pay this person this much, you know, then we just follow, you know, we can only look at what we got. But if
Right.
the whole thing, we will thumb through it and see if things seem like they're driving them. It works out good when towns change over staff. You know, we know kind of where things typically go. If you got a new person in a position, they don't know where to allocate things. And we can kind of like, you sure this is what you were thinking?
Right.
That's where that kind of comes in.
Okay.
They already did that on the quarterly. Okay, so now this is the stuff. Now you're getting into January, February. This is the stuff that kind of only happens once a year. So like we do the 1099s up. So we watch as the invoices come through. If you're paying an attorney, you're paying any independent contractor, we note our computer, note the system, keep track of them. The end of the year, we run through and print up the 1099s and send them out for you. We will send over, like if we don't have the information for one of the vendors, we'll send over W-9s to get out to them so that we can get their federal ID numbers or social security numbers if it's not a company. So, you know, attorneys are the big one that get 1099s every year. I already talked about the W-3s, W-2s, we do all that. Fringe benefit reporting, some towns have to submit certain things in to certain government agencies. We typically will do up the fringe benefit reporting and stuff like that. I don't think that applies to Allegheny County, but some of the counties do need the town's portion of retirement. So you pay the employer side of New York State retirement. We go in, download the invoice, and if you guys pay it in November, December to get the discount, we'll send the check over then. If you guys wait, you know, cash flow issues, if you wait till January, then and not get the discount, we send it over in January for you. We'll go in and download that. We do the breakout for it because you're supposed to break it out by department, by how much money each person makes in each department. You have employees that cross over, work in multiple departments, then their retirement, the employer side of that has to be broke out. We have an Excel sheet. We break it all down to which department it is that they earn the money in. Voucher split out. So, you know, cash basis versus accrual basis accounting. Towns are supposed to do modified accruals. So you don't really do accruals all year long. But the big thing is in November, December, any bill that was paid for the next year should get moved forward to the next year. And anything paid in January and February should be moved forward. Typically, you run into this with like insurances. the health insurance you pay in December is really for the next, for January. So we'll back that off the current year and move it to the next year. We kind of work back and forth with the people in the town to figure out which ones need to be moved. Main insurances, we can tell easily which way they're gonna go. Sometimes they pay the municipal due early. That'll be one that gets moved. Then
Okay,
all your receipts that come in January typically are for the prior month. So like your town clerk will give you your check in January for December. That gets moved forward so that it stays in the year in which it's supposed to, was earned.
right.
So that kind of stuff. February, we file the AUD, the annual report. So that's what that's saying.
Hmm.
County personnel reporting, they kind of like this January, February, but typically we have enough going on January, February, we send it up to the county in March. If the towns don't do it in-house, then we send it up to the county. And what this is doing is just adjusting the wages for the new year. Everybody gets a pay increase. The county likes to have it on file. So we'll
Okay.
do summary county personnel's in March when we get the annual reports caught up and stuff. Due tos, due froms, that's saying is after we get the AUD filed by March, April, May, now we know like if one fund owes another fund money and stuff like that, usually we work with the towns to try to get that moved. Line transfers, when lines go over budget, I don't know how you guys handle it now. Do you make transfer budget modifications as you go or how you do it?
We do a year end.
You just do it at the year end. Okay.
Yeah.
We typically about mid-year we'll send over some recommended ones. Just if we see something that's running off, there's usually not many mid-year, but like insurance, if you guys pay your total liability package, sometimes those will be up a little bit over budget. So then it'll show over budget, those type of things we can catch mid-year. So we send it over mid-year. The state requires you to do it before you go over budget, but it's one of those things, it's not like they're gonna come and arrest you for it. It's just, we try to send it out, make sure people try to stay a little bit more on it. All right, so August, September, that's when we start gearing up for budget meetings. At that point, we usually can get your retirement projection. So how much your retirement bill will be coming up for the next year. We usually can download the assessments. The budget process, the first round is the budget officer's budget. That's the tentative budget. We usually sit down with the supervisor, who's usually the budget officer, and go through the budget. And we take historicals, what you guys have normally been spending on each line. And then we talk with the supervisor and whoever they bring to the meeting and go over with what the town is planning on doing in the future and try to get a rough draft tentative budget done. Kind of a small group, not a ton of people, so you can kind of work through it and put that together. And then when the tentative budget gets done, the budget officer takes it back, chews on it, makes their adjustments, makes it their official tentative. Then it gets presented to the town board in the preliminary phase, and that's when the town board starts working on it.
Okay.
At that point, usually we take kind of a step back. Some towns at that point take it and run and are good. There's some towns that have me involved in the preliminary phase. So I come out to meetings and help talk with the town board to work through it. I have a projector and stuff I bring out and set up, and we go line by line, especially if you're trying to do some major changes. If it's the same old thing, then most of the town.
Right. So here's, I assume all the towns that you handle are going to be doing their budget around the same time of year. So
Correct.
that must be a busy time for you. So do we get the same person every year?
Me, yep. I'm the
Okay.
one that handles the budgets. Yep.
Okay.
In-house contact here will be somebody other than me. They will handle your payrolls, your monthly reports. It'll be the same person in-house. But when it hits the budget phase, they will prepare the stuff. But then I'm the one that sits down and talks strategy and goes over historicals and that.
Okay.
They come to the meeting and they will work with us because they know, the nitty gritty stuff as far as working with you. But, as projections and budgeting, that type of stuff I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not too bad. We typically do 3 meetings a day, and we'll even run them on Saturday. So we get through them all in about 3 weeks for the first round. So,
Okay,
and then there's only about half or less that do the second round. And then there's some that even have me come out to public hearings.
how many towns do you do right now?
32.
Okay,
Yep. So, yep. All right. So yeah, then October, November, this is when you guys are taking it from the preliminary phase, to the adopted phase. So that's when the public gets involved. You guys got to do your public hearings and stuff like that. Along the way, if you guys have any changes, we have have it all in an Excel sheet. So, you can make a change at a workshop or the budget. You just send over the data to me and I type it in and send it right back.
what sort of software requirements do we need to work with you?
None. We
So
provide.
So if you're, what are we using to print out checks if when you send us electronic?
PDF, but that's free.
Okay,
Yeah, they'll come over in a PDF file.
okay,
We use QuickBooks integrated with an Excel sheet is how we run the books here on this end, but we
okay.
don't need any of that on your end.
Okay,
November, December, this is where we look at kind of some of your accounts to see if there's any due tos, due froms, if there was transfer errors or if checks got paid. Sometimes they pay them out of one account and then they decide that they should have been paid by a different department or something like that. We try to clean up some of that stuff before year end. So we usually try November, December to review some of the stuff and send it over to make adjustments, to clean up some of the stuff before going into year end. This is when we're starting to get into the backouts again, like I said, for the accruals for the modified accounting. Where we look at the vouchers to see any of them that need to be moved to the next year. December's portion of the contributions, that's just the retirement like I talked about in the beginning of January. Some pay it early for the discount. You pay it by December 15th. Some pay it just regularly in January. Yep, and then close out vouchers with recommended line transfers. So this is where we do the final line transfers like you were talking about you do.
so one thing we do when we're preparing our budget is we're also on the side computing our tax rates for the village, in town and out of town. So I assume that we still do that on our own. You'll just provide us the information, correct?
Nope. I mean, you can. You guys are welcome, but I will calculate. I think it doesn't have that page on it. Okay, no, that budget workshop sheet I sent you. There's a back page that will have it broke down by inside village, outside village,
Okay,
broke out by department. The fire, usually we throw the fire department number on there because there'll be a line of that on your tax bill. Yeah, we have a comprehensive page that calculates it.
all right, good.
We typically don't look at, like, we don't go line by line and say, okay, if we give $100 raise, what's that change our rate to? Because that stuff can drive you bonkers.
Yeah, no, we don't do that either, but I mean, when we
Okay.
get to a tentative budget, we look to see what the impact is on the tax rate.
Correct. Yep. What we typically do is go down through the budget, the first round. I call it the, the wish list. So the first run through, you go through and you get this and you get that, and they run down through and they put it in, and then you see where your fund balance is, and then you see what you'd have to do to the tax rate to get the fund balance back where it needs to be, and then back through and cut it down to what's more reasonable. You go back through with the department heads and say, okay, what do you really need? And you chop it back down.
Right. I have, other people may have questions. I just have a couple things here, just in general about your firm. So how many people work for your firm?
6.
Full-time?
Yeah.
And now, you guys carry liability insurance, or does that?
Yes.
Okay. Good, because I think our insurance wouldn't cover you.
No.
Okay,
We're independent contractors.
Okay. And then when you price things out, like you gave us a price for the bookkeeping and the payroll, how do you price it out on the size of the budget or anticipated hours, or how do you go about pricing these things?
About 4 years ago, I built a comprehensive algorithm plan that takes in a 3-year trend between number of funds used. So like A fund, B fund, DA, DB, takes
Right.
into account on a 3-year track. Then it takes into the number of accounts that we reconcile every month. So how many checking accounts, savings accounts, all those that need to be reconciled. It runs them on a 3-year track. And then we look at number of transactions. It looks at deposits, checks, transfers, all that, and it just takes the bulk number for a 3-year track record. And then we look at, then we have an adjustment based on some of the special needs stuff. Some, most of our systems customized. Some towns need more things, some towns need less
Right.
things. So we have an adjustment, but those algorithms kind of get me in a ball game, and then I make adjustments to what some towns need versus others from that. So you're
That's,
kind of just I just kind of summarized where I thought you were gonna. I figured out the
Right.
number of funds, number of checking, savings, but then the rest of it was kind of projected.
well, that sounds very analytical as far as the way you approach it. So that, I like that. I don't have any other questions right now. How about the rest of the board, or Jan? Anybody have questions for Justin?
No, I think I had asked him several when I talked to him earlier, so he pretty much answered all my questions.
Okay, anybody else?
Justin, what would the timing be on the monthly reports for the board members? How far ahead of meetings would we be able to see those?
Our goal is 2 days.
Great.
So if your meeting was today, we would have tried to have it out by Tuesday.
Okay, and those will come to the town offices and then out to us, or directly to us through an email, or what?
That is up to the supervisor.
All right,
Yeah,
fair
some
enough.
supervisors have us email the board members all directly. So we just do a bulk email right out to everybody. Some supervisors like to receive it. They review it, make any changes, send it back, say, hey, could you tweak this? You move this? And then we make the adjustments and then send it back out. So they like to kind of filter it on their
Yep.
end.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
So here's a question. Now Jan is going to be retiring the 1st of July. So what sort of timeframe would we need to transition to you? In other
Well,
words, how much time do you need to pick up the ball by, the 1st of July?
payroll, we can usually pick up pretty quick and get that rolling. Writing checks and stuff, that'll be pretty quick. The monthly reports are what'll take, a few minutes, for us to get the data all in and up to speed on there.
So I guess what I'm asking is, if we go with you, when would you want to be contracted?
I would like 30 days. It'd be nice to know by the 1st of June.
Okay. And then, okay, that's what I needed to know.
Yeah.
Now, do we sign a 1-year contract with you? What's your arrangement?
We personally don't care if there's a contract necessarily. My predecessor, Tom Baldwin, said, you don't want to work with anybody who don't want to work with you. But the state comptroller doesn't like towns to operate without contracts. So we do put together a contract. If you guys in this case are starting mid-year, which is not super common, we would send over a half-year contract if you wanted, and then you guys could sign for the next year.
Okay,
The
all
only
right.
the only thing I would say on a half-year contract is I probably would have stipulation that if we're not contracted for the next year, that we have like a little setup fee, a couple grand, because we're gonna have a lot of time up front to get this thing up and going.
Right, understood.
What I'm saying? If it was only for 6 months, we would not recover our costs.
Right, right. Okay, that all makes sense to me. Anybody else have any questions for Justin at this point?
You guys got any questions on the reports? Do you want to go through them?
I think, well, for myself, I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but unless there's something unusual that I'm overlooking.
Look pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
Jan, from your perspective, was there anything that you do that you saw that maybe these folks wouldn't do on the bookkeeping side?
I don't think so. I think, I mean, they're doing everything that we do and now and probably more. So, yeah, I think looks good.
One good thing about the statements is we do get a monthly fund balance for
Mhm.
each account, which is helpful, just so we can keep an eye on that. 'Cause typically, we don't really focus on that until we do our budget.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. So I like that.
Now the account lines, as you see in there, towns typically end up wanting things called different things. You know, we typically start out with the names the state uses for each line. And then as you need subcategories, you can go, you know, we usually use letters. So you have A, B, C, you know, if you want things broke out. We don't encourage or disencourage breaking out. It's kind of, we can send back what we get. So if you guys want to break it down by subcategories, when you send us all the data, we can process it easily and send it back with subcategories. So you'll see on there,
Okay.
some of the lines had subs and some don't.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure we can deal with that. Okay, I guess if there are no other questions, we can thank you, Justin, for coming, and we will discuss it and get back to you as quickly as we can.
All right, thank you. Have a
You're
good day.
welcome to- You're welcome to
Justin.
stay.
Yep, I may.
Okay.
Thanks, Justin.
Okay, next we have Ann Walling from Northland Power. And Ann, there you are. You're on and you're muted.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Let me share my screen in the presentation if that's okay.
Sure.
First, I'll say hello and good evening to the board, and thanks to Jan for helping me set this up. And I basically would like to, I'll show you the introduction here. You can see, there we go. Okay, so I think first we'll just introduce ourselves and then tell you a little bit about who we are and what we've been doing, and then we'll talk a little bit specific about the project and where we go from here. So we call this project Alfred Oaks Solar. Our company had a naming contest, and that was the one that won. And you can see a shot of there's some shots of some typical solar farms that we've built sort of throughout here for you to look at.
Not sure the screen share is working.
Uh-oh, can you not see it?
We're still seeing you.
You're still seeing me. I don't see okay. Well,
You should be allowed to share, Ian.
I can't find my screen to share in this list though, which is weird. I can't drag it. Let me try, no, because then I can't see the button to share. Oh, wait. Can you do?
Here we go.
Did that do it? All right, let's try and,
You got it.
yeah. Hang on. Let me do. I'm sorry, I'm not accustomed to Zoom. We normally do something different. And I can't get to. Oh, there we go. That's weird. Can you see my screen still? All right.
Yep.
Well, let's just pop up the presentation this way. There we go.
All right.
Okay, sorry about that. Little technical difficulties.
problem.
There. Okay, so okay. So to introduce ourselves, I'm Ann Whaling from Northland Power, and my colleague Jeffrey Nemeth is here. He's the Director of Development for Northland Power as well. And he's going to make sure that I keep on the straight and narrow, and jump in, Jeffrey, if you need to add more color about anything that we've got going on. I've been working solar in New York for about 6 years, and with Northland for just a few months now, working on this project pretty much that, during this time. Jeffrey, if you want to give a brief introduction, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to hear us talk about the project. Yeah, I've been doing development for 12 plus years, and I've spent the last 10 years developing different projects in New York. So yeah, very excited to continue to be working in New York and having an opportunity to work here with the town of Alfred.
Thank you. A little bit about Northland. There's a couple of slides with a lot of information in here, and I did send the slides to the town clerk to share with you later if there's anything that you'd like to follow up on. Northland Power is a global developer, owner, and operator of sustainable infrastructure assets. And that's kind of important because sometimes people develop and sell, and sometimes they operate things that they didn't develop. And the combination of being able to develop a project that you then know that you're going to have to own and operate means that you're stuck with what you did when you develop it, and so you have to do it right. We're an international company with over 30 years of successfully developing, constructing, and operating power projects over the full life cycle of projects. And we have operating assets in a number of countries around the world: Canada, the US, Latin America, Europe, and Asia. I'm sorry, my dog is a little mouthy tonight. Apologies. So this is an area map showing the Alfred Oaks Solar Project. We have 969 acres under lease, none of it on prime farmland. And as you can see here, we're going to plan to interconnect to a 115 kilovolt line that runs through the project. The solar panels will be the PV, photovoltaic panels, and we're going to use single axis tracker racking, which means that they'll track a little bit with the sun in one direction. Some more specifics about the project. We have 969 acres, which we've acquired through agreement with landowners. There's some possible additional land for optimization, but probably not too much. We have enough to get a good start on our layout. We have a current interconnection position with NISO. Our queue position number is 1096, if anybody's familiar with the queue. And we've started our system interconnection study, which will give us a little bit more information about any upgrades that might be needed or any costs to interconnect. We've been working on the project probably, I know it's over a year, because we had planned, and I think we bid the project into the NYSERDA RFP last year. You may have heard about that before that happened. I think you got a little bit of an update on the project previously. We've done some environmental studies, and we're in the middle of some other ones. So we've delineated wetlands on about 70% of the project lands, but we've got a little bit more to do at the beginning of this season. We've got bird studies that are in progress. We've done studies over the winter for the raptors, and we're going to be doing some breeding bird studies in the spring. We've done a preliminary study for the Office of Renewable Energy siting regarding wildlife, which is called a wildlife characterization study. And so that's been completed, and that gives basically a complete overview of all the wildlife, flora and fauna in the project area, and how it might, how it might be affected, so that we're aware of what's there and we're looking at what's there. We've compiled a letter to State Historic Preservation Office for the archaeological studies that will need to be done. And we're awaiting a response from them to know kind of exactly what we have to do moving forward. If you've done seeker permitting in the town, you know, SHPO and archaeological studies and phase 1A and all that stuff. The permitting for a project of this size is required to be done in New York State through the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, which is a new office. This 94C permitting process replaces the old Article 10, which maybe some of you have heard about. We have a meeting set with them, which is required that we take very early in the process. And it's required for all projects that are greater than 25 megawatts. And
I
this
have a
is
question on that, Ann. Given the size of this project, so you're permitting through the state. Now, does that supersede town permitting?
It does supplant town permitting, but the town does have input into the process. So it's a little different from Article 10. And I'll show you the timeline a little bit later on, but it is definitely a state managed permitting process. And
Okay,
the
so
office,
you would not be coming to the town for any building permit or zoning permits?
we're still going to need to acquire the town permits for the building and construction. There's some other, I think, ancillary things that we'll have to do. For example, if there might need to be road agreements or anything like that. And those permits, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeffrey, this process is still pretty new, 94C. I think that they work to roll them into the whole process so they get accomplished at the same time, but we'll still definitely have to work with the town to do that.
Yeah, that's correct. So the new ORES is literally brand new. And so we're kind of like learning a little bit as we work with the state as they've been rolling out information. And as Ann had mentioned, we're meeting with the ORES team and I think in about a month. And at that time, we'll get a lot more clarification. But I guess even though it is a state process, I do want to stress that Northland looks at it as, you know, we're wanting to communicate with the town, work with the town, address like concerns that the town may have about the project. Because, you know, as a developer, owner, operator, we look at it, you know, we're here for the life of the project. And so we definitely want to be good neighbors and make sure that we're communicating with you and then taking any concerns that you may have about the project into consideration as we do the work, you know, going forward and permitting it.
What is the expected life of the project?
About 30 years.
30?
30 years is typical. Yeah, for the panels, the inverters probably 10 to 15, so get changed out in the middle sometimes. And then and the panels extend for that long.
Dan,
Okay.
can I just ask a quick question? The Article 10 proceeding that used to be done for projects like this was usually or could be a lengthy time frame. Is this new going to reduce that time frame? Is that the idea of it?
That's the idea of it. There's actually sort of a double benefit to the 94C permitting process. One is that a lot of the work that we would normally have done once we made application during Article 10 is now handled up front, right? So we have to front load a lot of our work before we even make our application. That, you know, started the studies, done a whole bunch of stuff. We do consults with all of the permitting agencies. We'll permit or we'll consult with, you know, the DEC and SHPO and everybody who might be required to issue a permit. I don't know if we have Army Corps wetlands on the property, but that determination will be made ahead. And all of that gets taken into account. We do our engineering and then we submit the application knowing what the hurdles are and what areas that we really need to work on ahead of the application. And then from that point, once the application is submitted, there's a small review period and then a year of the state looking at it, and then the permit can be issued in relatively short order. So it's not going to drag on for, you know, 4 or 5 years, we hope. I mean, in theory, again, we haven't seen anybody go through the process, so we'll see how it works out.
Thank you.
So the 94C process timeline includes all of these different items, pre-application consultations, and then we submit the application. And that looks like it's one simple, quick step, but that process is really going to be, you know, months, probably 6 months at this point, at least. Then after the application is submitted, there's the intervenor funding application, which is similar to Article 10, which is our company puts up money so that interested stakeholders, usually towns particularly, can get funding for different things that they might want, consultants or studies. So after that, there's a completeness review, and ORAS issues what they call draft permit conditions. So things that we have to do in order to get the permit, and that takes about 60 days. And then there's a public comment period, municipal statement of compliance, and that's about 60 days. And at that point, ORAS can issue a determination. There can be hearings if they're required, if there's opposition, or if there's things that people feel need to be changed. And then there can be a recommended decision and a hearing report. And then 1 year after you're considered complete, there can be a permit issued or a final determination. And then once you're in compliance with all the permit conditions, you can head to inspection. So we believe that Q1 through Q4 of 2021, we're going to be doing a lot of studies. And probably right around the end of this year, we'll be ready to make a permit application. A lot's going to depend on the outcome of the meeting. So we'll be sure and keep everybody apprised as to what our conversations are like with ORAS. We think there'll be a final determination around Q4 of, I can't see that behind myself, but I'm in myself. Q4 of 2022, compliance filings in 2023, and start of construction in 2023, with the goal of being complete and operational by 2024. So that would be our timeline.
So where are you right now? You're in the pre-application?
We're in the pre-application. We haven't started our consult yet with the Office of Renewable Energy siting, although it's scheduled for Thursday, May 6th, I believe. Yeah, so we're at the very beginning of the process, which is when we like to start talking about it and getting some feedback on what we've got going on. So there are some benefits to the community from hosting a solar facility. One is that the article or the 94C process gives you access to intervenor funding, which we have to post in the amount of $1,000 per megawatt. So there's $100,000 that can be used for people who make an application for it if they want to have a consultant or to have studies. Another benefit is that we obviously hope to achieve a pilot agreement with the county, and that is shared among, the usual split, the school district, the town, and the county. There can be an additional host community agreement. And there are certain things that are laid out in the 94C law that are unrefined at this point, but a combination of provisions and suggestions. One of the interesting things that they've talked a little bit about, and I think they're going to hopefully give some more clarity to in the rules that they're setting forth, is the benefit that the entire town can get a discount on their electric bill or money toward it. So that's something that I think tends to make these projects a little bit easier on communities. You can say, it's not just that we're creating energy to be put into the grid, you can also see some benefit directly in your energy bill in your community. As the construction project goes, these are pretty big. And so there's significant spend during construction in the community. And the construction also creates a great deal of short-term jobs, opportunity for local contractors and vendors. Of course, payments to landowners are a benefit. And the investment for a project like this takes place really without burdening the community's existing infrastructure. I mean, we're not bringing in a whole bunch of children that need to go to the schools. It tends to be a pretty maintenance-free investment on the part of the town.
About how many people would be working on this project?
Wow, that's a question that I don't 100% know the answer to. You mean construction, during construction? What do you think, Jeffrey?
I would say probably during construction that we would see between probably 150 to 175 part-time, or I should say full-time temporary construction jobs. In constructing a solar project, it's very labor intensive, in which, we would, be reaching out to, the local, local union halls, etc., for doing this work. I think recently, if you've been tracking what the bill or the budget with the state, as part of renewables going forward, there's a strong push for prevailing wage and union labor being used for all of these projects. So right now we're really kind of going into this with eyes wide open that would be the expectation / requirement by the state for doing these jobs.
The other provision, which is interesting and has been questioned because sometimes it's in conflict with the first provision of prevailing wage labor, is to use as much New York State and local contractors and vendors as you can possibly find. So for example, if there are electricians in town that can go work as subcontractors on the project, or if there's a local fencing vendor, or often hauling for things like stone for the roads, and certainly landscaping. There's a bunch of that kind of stuff that can be taken from the local community and provide work and jobs as well.
So I've got just a couple questions. How big is this size-wise compared to other projects that you've done or that have been done in New York or the Northeast? Is it big? Is it medium size? What's the relative size of this?
Well, in New York so far, I don't know that they've constructed bigger than 20 megawatt projects, although a few have been permitted in the 100+ megawatt range. So this is a 100 megawatt project, which is about 1,000 acres of solar.
How many acres?
About 1,000. We have 969 under lease. The actual project, panel area will probably be between 700 and 800 acres, but the land for everything that is under lease is almost 1,000 acres. So it isn't the biggest by far because they're in the process of permitting, 2 or maybe even a 300 megawatt project. Definitely similar sizes are being permitted. But construction for New York State, I don't think has come upon a 100 megawatt project yet. I think 20 or 50 megawatt might be the largest so far.
And what sort of investment do you guys have to put into this project?
That's a great question. Do you have a total on that, Jeffrey?
Sure. So I mean, like a project like this size would vary from between, I think it's about $150-ish million, give or take a few $1 million. I don't have our model in front of us on it, but that would be an estimated cost.
Okay. And
Is Northland Power, is that for profit?
We are a for-profit company. We are a publicly traded company on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So we, just like, you're in a US company on the New York Stock Exchange, we are on the Toronto Stock Exchange and publicly traded. And yeah, so we have shareholders that, we do a dividend, payments to, etc. So yes, we are a for-profit company.
And where are you headquartered?
We're headquartered in Toronto, Canada.
Yep. Okay. So here's another question, sort of just being devil's advocate. But why are you putting it? I think we're happy. I think it's a good thing you're doing it here, but why not do it in Florida?
So there's a few reasons why New York is a hub for solar these days. And one of them is obviously the governor's commitment to increasing renewable energy. Another is that solar at this longitude and latitude is really very productive. If you look at Germany, which runs a huge renewable energy program, they're right about our latitude, longitude, and are right about, same northerly orientation. And you can really get a good amount of production from solar at this level. So while I think there is solar in Florida, we're not there yet. and New York has some really good programs for getting us started to develop in this state. And it's been going on for a while at the small scale, and utility is starting to take off. So this site is really good because it has access to power, it has some good open land, and it has enough sunshine to make this work. Landowners who want to participate. Those three things don't come along everywhere.
Right. So just in general, like, will these generate electricity on a cloudy day?
Yes, and to a certain extent, and that is modeled, right? So we know how many hours over the course of the year of sunshine that you can expect at a certain location. And even on a snowy day, the panels that we hope to use, they make bifacial panels now, which can catch some reflected light from the snow. So even in the colder weather, even on a little bit of a cloudy day, you're still generating energy. Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. Other questions from the board?
There we go.
I had several questions, Dan. The first one was, you mentioned the pilot agreement. So is this a tax exempt project? And if so, is it tax exempt for you or for the landowners, or?
So taxes get paid through the pilot, which is considered a payment in lieu of taxes. And
Right.
Most energy plants and energy facilities do operate that way, just because it can be difficult to, put a straight taxation on it. It's just the way that power projects in New York State have been done. It doesn't mean that we won't pay a good portion of the full assessment, even right from the beginning, but it does mean that it gives us certainty for our investors so that we know what the level is going into the project for financing purposes. Usually we're paying a pretty good chunk of change, and we will go into the negotiations with the county, and it's definitely an open process so that everybody will understand the methodology by which they're assessing us and basing their pilot agreement on.
So that's based on the value of the installation, not on the actual land.
No, the underlying land, I think we have the provision in our lease agreement with the landowners that we pay any increase in taxes. Since it's a 30-year project, but it's not considered a permanent taxable feature, the land value, the underlying value, remains the same for the landowner, and we pay any taxes on the project and any increases on the land that happen as a result of the project.
Okay.
So
with a
you
pilot
still-
agreement,
Go ahead.
is that split between the county and the town then?
Yep, the county, the town, the school district, all would share in it, depending on what your normal percentage split is, unless there's some provision that would be done differently.
Okay.
Mhm.
Another question, looking at the description of the town on the page that you have the aerial view of it, you have it listed as a 100 megawatt AC PV solar, which I'm assuming is photovoltaic, but / 20 megawatt AC BESS. What is that?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I forgot to mention it. Currently, we have planned for a battery energy storage system. So there'd be a little bit of battery storage to extend the operational hours a little bit further. Sorry, excuse me.
So that would be if there was excess energy generated, some of it would be stored?
That's correct. And then dispersed during peak times so that we
Okay.
can help. It helps with grid stability, and it also helps because you can sell the power at a slightly higher price if you're dispersing it when it's needed more.
Okay. And then I think I've got two more questions. One, you said this project would have an expected life of 30 years. What happens after 30 years?
Well, after 30 years, the project would either be repowered with different panels, likely, or it would be extended if the degradation wasn't as significant as we think it might be, or it could be decommissioned. And the decommissioning plan is fairly simple, just like putting it together. You unplug it and you remove the facilities according to the rules set up by Ag and Markets. and you do some basic site restoration, and you're good to go.
So is
Can I
that
follow-
included? Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to follow up on Matthew's question. So are you guys bonded for that decommissioning as part of the project?
Yes, it's a bonded process.
Good. Sorry,
And
Matt.
then that's okay. My last question was probably the most important to me. Right at the beginning of the project, you stated that there was 0% prime ag land, and you said that there's none of this on prime farmland. I know at least 100 acres of that is currently being farmed. So how is that determination made?
That determination doesn't have to do with whether it's farmed or not, but it has to do with the mineral content of the soil. New York State classifies all agricultural soil into different groups and categories depending on what's present in it. And they have created maps which show it. I can actually provide the town with the map of the soil which we have overlaid with the project area if you want to see. And then they categorize, soil groups 1 through 4 are considered variations of prime soil. There's prime and soils of statewide importance and some other designations that go along with mineral content. And so the new regulations through ORES state that if you do have a certain amount of prime soil, you are going to pay some mitigation if you impact it. So we've been careful with this project. We're lucky that this isn't going to be sited on those prime soils, according to New York State. It doesn't mean it's not great farmland. It just means it's not prime soil, according to New York State.
Okay, one of our other participants asked if you could provide those maps at some point, so that would be great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
I have one follow-up question. This will show my ignorance of this whole thing, but my understanding was that you had to be able to hook up to 3-phase electricity for one of these projects. Is that true?
3-phase would be like a distribution type usually, and the smaller community scale solar projects like to hook up to 3-phase power, right? But we're good to go right into a transmission line, and there's a 115 right on site.
So why don't you need 3-phase?
See, to me, 3-phase is a designation that I don't understand. So I only understand the kilowatts. And Jeffrey,
I don't know any more than to say the word.
Yeah, all I know is 3-phase is the way that we used to refer to a distribution line, which is a slightly smaller line.
3-phase just gets into the type of current.
Okay.
And like with the wires going through it. So yeah, I mean, so the 115 is a 3-phase cable.
Oh, okay.
And that we would be tying into that. And then just also to be clear, since this is a 115 kV, as Ann had mentioned in the beginning, we are currently going through a system reliability impact study through NISO, which you must go through their process, enter into what's called an interconnection agreement with them to be able to interconnect this project into the New York grid system.
But okay, just one last illustration of my ignorance. My understanding is these power lines are 240, right? Running from pole to pole. And then they bring it to your house and you get your 120 off that. So what is the 115? I don't get it. What is 115? Because the power line should be 240 at least, maybe 400.
No, I'm sorry, Ann.
Oh, no, I was just going to talk about I think the difference between like the service in your house, which is amperage, you think of like 100 or 200 amperage. So we're talking about voltage. So one of the things that the voltage is like the distribution line outside of your house is probably what's smaller than a 34.5, because that won't
be around to 2.3.
Yeah, so you take it down real low on the voltage, but the amperage stays high, right, in your house, because all your appliances convert back to amperage rather than voltage. So it's a different way of measuring a smaller amount of power, right? So you're talking in terms of kilowatts in your house of usage, and we're talking in terms of kilovolts. So it sounds the same, but it's a little bit different. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll stop.
That's okay.
Couple of questions from the chat box. I don't know if Ian was going to jump into these, but
Go ahead, Matt.
someone asked if all of the land is currently leased or is it proposed leasing?
We have agreements with 969 acres worth of land.
Okay.
So,
And
yeah.
then two other questions. Where can the public view the wildlife studies and what is the anticipated impact on traffic and roads locally?
Okay, so traffic and roads, there'll have to be a study done. And that is in that study period of the next 6 months, probably, we'll be doing a study that will inform the answer to that question, so that we can make sure that we're not, creating a disturbance along Route 12 or impacting traffic in an area that should be, kept clear and just to make sure there's a good safety plan. And the other one, the wildlife studies, that's a good question. Article 10 would have required us to do websites. I think we may have to set up a website through ORAS, which would give you an opportunity to be able to get online and view documents. Probably we'll end up posting copies of documents at various places, I would think in the town, and certainly have them available maybe at libraries. During the Article 10 process, that's the way it works. And I imagine that it's very similar for this process as well. We'll have different places where public can view them and probably a website.
And you showing in your presentation a row of panels that's going off into the horizon there. Quite a typically is what you're presenting is row and row of that same thing, like 900 acres of the same thing?
Yeah. Well, no, not 900 contiguous acres. We designed these projects in a way that's called ponding. So you can see in this picture here how you group a string of panels together, right? A cluster. And,
okay.
And then you have maybe some open areas, some wetlands, some whatever, and then you might have another cluster somewhere else. And eventually they'll all get hooked together and then the power gets put into the grid. So it isn't like a solid 1,000 acres of paved panels. And they actually have quite a bit of row spacing in between, as you can see. So there's still lots of room for the water to move. They're all fenced for safety. And it's broken up quite a bit, usually by natural barriers of trees and roads and landscaping.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dan, can I ask a quick question? This is Joe Menachino.
Yeah, sure.
I was just wondering, how many acres are you going to clear cut of this 1,000 acres? There's a lot of forest up there in that map.
It's a good question. We don't have a solid layout yet for you and to know the answer to that. So once the layout is determined, we'll know how much we have to clear. And you're right, some of the site is definitely wooded. Some of it looks like it's sort of a new growth wooded situation or a wetland wood situation. It's hard to tell. But that's a question that will definitely be answered when we create a layout.
Yeah, it's a shame to have to cut trees, but the other question is it's going to shut off all hunting in that whole 1,000 acres too, right?
Any place inside the fence, you will not be able to hunt.
And is that the whole 1,000 acres?
No, probably not. It's probably going to be about 700 acres of panels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, people will hunt all around that, and I'm sure there's going to be a risk that stray shots will go into this park.
That can happen. We've built projects on hunting club land before, and it's definitely something to consider. If there is any land that's currently used for hunting, let's just say that the facilities are remotely monitored, right? So, I mean, if an accidental shot straight in and got a panel, we would probably know about it pretty quickly. So
Okay.
we'd be able to tell that something had come offline and we could come and repair it. We're not looking to have them shot. I mean, I'm sure nobody's looking to shoot them, but accidents do happen.
Yeah, I don't anticipate anybody doing any foul play with it, but
Yeah.
when you're hunting, you don't always sometimes the shots carry, and it gets harder and harder to hunt on this hill every year. So,
Yeah, for sure. That is, yeah, it's definitely a consideration.
yeah, I just hope that you don't plan to cut too many of the forests. Thank you for your answers.
You're welcome.
We had another question on the chat. Is there any reflected light off the panels? Like at night, any time of day or night?
No, they only, they're generated, or they're designed to absorb light, right? Because they're a little bit dark. There's some sort of dull metal framing. You might get, we can do a study that will show any areas that might have a little bit of glare, usually from the racking or the frame of the panel, not so much necessarily from the panel itself. It can very simply be predicted with a program. So we'll design it to make sure that it doesn't emit glare. And because what we really want to do is capture all that sun and you know, let it get absorbed, so it's creating the energy.
Right.
But in a sort of a means of education to tell you that Denver International Airport, if you've ever flown in, they're very safe. They're safe for, you know, cars to drive by, and they're safe for planes to fly over as long as they're engineered properly. Denver International Airport has them right at the airport. You can fly in and fly over them on the way to right to the runway. It's pretty cool.
Do you have any other installations now in New York State?
No, we've only been operating in New York for how long, Jeffrey? About a year?
Yeah, so Northland Power entered the US market about a year ago. And what they did is they actually purchased 3 different wind farms in different stages of development. So we currently have the Ball Hill Wind Farm, which is in Chautauqua County, under construction, or we've started the tree clearing necessary for the project. And then we have another wind farm that's under construction in Broome County, also happening right now for this year. As part of us entering into the US market, we did buy a couple projects, wind projects, to kind of move us along earlier into being able to construct something. But we've done all of our own solar greenfield work. And so this is like one of the very first greenfield projects that has been developed by Northland in the US.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. You mentioned the intervenor funding being for consultants studying. Is it all focused in early stage, finding out the right answers kinds of, is that what all that intervenor funding is for? Or are there other uses?
The towns can apply for it to use for what they might feel is important to do or look at. I imagine there are some guidelines about that, but if you felt like there was something that you wanted to verify that we had done and you wanted to get your own, you know, information to see if that was accurate, or
Okay, so it's information gathering, not making a road solid enough for heavy trucks to go over it.
no, if there are road
Okay.
improvements necessary, that would be on the development team to,
Okay, so
yeah.
So it's all information gathering. That's what I was trying to understand. Thank you.
As far as I know, I think that's mostly what it's geared toward, yes.
Okay, yeah, that was one of my questions too, was with regard to the a road use agreement. Is that something that we typically enter into with the host community?
I would think that a road use agreement would definitely be a part of the pre-construction stuff that had to happen. And there would at least be a road survey. We would go take some pretty good video and determine. I mean, there's a number of the trucks that are coming in aren't big, but the panels are heavy, and so there'll be a certain amount of road traffic in the area, and that all needs to just we need to make sure that we leave it in as good condition as we found it.
Can I ask a question, Dan?
Yeah.
I sent you a copy of the town solar law. I don't know if you've had time to review it or not yet, but my question, I guess, is, are you going to have to abide by anything in our law because you're saying the state kind of oversees ours, or will you be following our law?
So we've had a lawyer do a local law review, and he's looked at the law carefully. And as far as I can tell, I mean, we'd like to get into it a little bit more in detail and make sure that our interpretation matches yours, right? But I think that we're going to try very hard to be fully compliant with the law. And I would enjoy sitting down, you know, with somebody and going through it and just making sure, and, you know, seeing where, if there's anything that is sort of open to interpretation. Sometimes people don't fully, you know, you haven't built a solar project maybe in town before, so you haven't had a chance to explore all of the places where the law might be interpreted. So that's one thing that's nice to get a discussion on going on ahead of time. But it's our goal to be compliant with the law.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have another comment. So the state regulation under which you are getting permitted is 94C, is that correct?
94C, Office of Renewable Energy Siting, yes.
So I'm just wondering, I'm not familiar with that. Is that something you could send us a copy of?
Yes, I can send you a link to the place where it's posted online, with the caveat that this is a new law and parts of it are not as fully developed as they might become, you know, in the next few months. So I'll send you what's out there for sure.
Yeah,
a link
if
to
you can send us that link, at least we can compare that to our town law and see how they match up or don't match up.
Yeah, they say, I think pretty clearly that there's a local law compliance factor. You know, there's always the provision that if there's something that's deemed highly unreasonable, I think that there could be a method for having a waiver, but your law doesn't appear to be unreasonable.
Okay, good. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we'll send it to you and you can take a look.
Okay, any other questions for either Anne or Jeffrey? Thank you both for coming. We appreciate you coming here. And when would we next hear from either of you?
I can really do it however you like. I'm happy to update you pretty regularly if you'd like to hear from us. Generally speaking, I'd probably want to check in with you after we have our meeting with Office of Renewable Energy Siting. After this meeting, I'll provide you with the information that you've asked for, which is, you know, the link to ORAs and the agricultural maps. And if you want, I'll be happy to send you, you know, little progress summaries as we go along, or I'll be happy to chat with you and give you an update at the board meeting anytime you want.
Yeah, if you just send us a little update now and then, that would be good.
Okay, will do.
Okay, I guess thank you very much. You're welcome to stay. And
Thank you.
We'll move along.
Okay, we
the
appreciate your
agenda.
time. Yep, thank you.
Pardon me?
I
Thank you,
appreciate your
everyone.
time.
Thank you.
Yep, bye.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we approve the franchise agreement as an extension of what we've had in the past with no franchise fee. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have everybody?
Aye.
Okay. Good. Thank you. It passes. Approval of the minutes. You all got a copy? Any additions or corrections? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Matthew. Second.
A second.
Thank you, Fian. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, great. Police report. I did not get a police report, so I have nothing to forward. Code enforcement officer, you all got a copy of that report. Let's take a look at that. The revocation of the NICIC building permit for a retail store. We have an illegal building on Palmetto Road. that Steve has posted a stop work order on. So we'll see what happens there. We have a person who wants to have a horse barn on Pleasant Valley Road. And so I guess she's applied for a building permit. So I guess that's ongoing then. Answered questions on barn rooftop solar on Sherman Road. Now that really piqued my interest since I live there. Do you know about that, Ian?
That's my barn.
That's your barn, okay.
Yeah.
I pretty much narrowed it down. Okay. Final inspection for a tower on County Road 12. I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is, Jan?
Looks like a pad in the shed for the existing windmill, maybe?
Oh,
I'm not sure. Steve took care of that. I'm not sure what it is.
okay. And the last item is a complaint on a non-conforming use of the old town garage. Spoke with the owner. The owner will apparently get back to him. Okay, any questions on the code enforcement officer's report?
The request for the retail store, what's the next step? Does that have to go to the ZBA? Because he said it required a special permit.
That's us, right?
No,
What retail store are we talking about?
um,
Oh,
Or
Byler.
Tyler.
Jar of
Yes.
Farms up
You'll
on,
need a special
Right.
use permit, yeah.
And so does that, I'm just sorting out process. That goes to the ZBA then?
correct.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yes,
It requires a special use permit.
correct.
Freddie didn't know how busy he was gonna be this
Yeah, I
year.
guess.
I guess I'm confused. I thought the ZBA was only if it was a variance, not special use.
No
It's
special. use
special use, yeah.
ZBA.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on Steve's report?
Yeah, I guess I do. I don't want to bring up an unpleasant topic, but going into spring and the ongoing yard sale issue,
Yes,
it's there again. It's gearing up again.
I saw that they had the building that was enclosed everything, and
Mhm.
now they've opened up the building
Mhm.
and taken everything out and spread it all over the property.
Pure so.
Yes, I know.
Sorry.
Go remind Steve. Okay, anything else on code enforcement? Monthly report, anything to report there, Jan?
No, everything looks good.
Okay, we're still early in the year.
Right, yeah.
Okay. We did not have any correspondence, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
I mean, most of it was the two issues we just discussed,
right,
and that was all forwarded to you, so.
right. Okay, the general abstracts. Now, did everybody get it or not?
Yes, they should have.
Okay, so I don't have to go through and read each one. But
If
the,
it wasn't, I hand delivered them, their
oh,
packet.
that's right.
So
That was
everybody-
really good of you.
Well, I was getting kind of nervous.
Okay, so there's, as I'm looking at this, there's nothing unusual or apparently controversial. Is there a motion to pay the general abstracts?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Matthew. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, great. Highway, so Dunning Auto Parts, was that the 20, is Bob here? Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
Was that the Sterling or the,
The Sterling for the exhaust.
right, okay. Everything looks pretty. Any comments about the highway bills? Is there a motion to pay?
So moved.
Matthew, and second by Fian. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, great, thank you all. Okay, highway report, Bob.
We put a new floor in the dump box on the 10 Mac. Where this floor is where the sander chain goes. It just kind of got a little thin, so all we did is bought some steel and slid up in there and welded it back together, so it's good to go. Put a new sander chain in, hydraulic hoses on the ditching bucket, took the plow frame and the tires off the 10 Mac, washed trucks. In road work, we've been cutting brush on East Valley, ditching and pull shoulders on East Valley, put a driveway pipe up there on Lake Road, some ditch work, and we had to take a sexual harassment training class and our dig safety class. So that's where we're at.
I think we overlooked one bill because Bob has a bill for the broom, right, Jan?
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, so
Yes.
the broom is about tired out, and the hydraulic motors are like $1,300, and I came across this broom here. It's for what is it? What I tell you, 19,999.
Right.
So instead of buying another hydraulic motor for 13, I came across this. It's a little bit heavier duty. It's got 2 hydraulic motors on it instead of 1. So I think this would be the way to go.
And the broom we're using now, what's the history on that?
They come from the AU University many moons ago.
So it doesn't owe us anything.
No, it's bought and paid for itself probably lots of times.
So you didn't actually purchase the new one yet, Bob?
Not yet, no.
It was supposed to be on this list of abstracts.
Yeah, you'll have to add it to the highway abstract.
And what was the number? $1,999?
Correct.
Okay,
So will the wafers that you bought fit that also?
Correct. That's yes.
Sweet.
okay. Well, then let's go back and just, I move that we pay the bill that Bob's presented us for the new broom. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Theon. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay, good. Okay, back to Bob on the highway. Did you get through it all?
Yeah.
Okay,
And then I'll talk about the grader a little bit, Dan. There, we had a hiccup with the grader, so John Deere was bent down a couple times. And what they found out, one of the control sticks in there, which is all electronic, went bad on it. So they've been down, and that's what we came down to. And since John Deere came yesterday and they fixed it, and it's been working. So I didn't think it was the controller, but it was the controller.
so I guess I'll probably end up sending us a bill.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. But
Okay, well,
I just wanted to inform everybody since. So
okay. Anything else for Bob? Questions for Bob?
Yeah, real quick, Bob, do you have a short list of the roads you want to tackle with CHIPS funding this season?
I got to top coat the roads I did last year. And then I'm going to see where my funds sit. I'm going to try to take some of the CHIPS money and fix the shoulders up East Valley because they're getting bad. So
the recoat would be for which ones from last year?
the Barber Lane, Randolph, and Burdick.
By the way, Bob, I had a resident on Barber Lane came up to me unsolicited to compliment you on how well the road held up over the year and how happy they were with it. So
Nice.
there you go.
That's good. Well, thanks. So it looks like we're going to get pretty much our full chips, but I think they're going to hold 5% back. So instead of the 20% like they did before. So we'll have a little bit more money to work with.
If you want to go over that spreadsheet, Bob, at some point, we can update that from last year and,
For the roads being,
yeah.
yeah, we can sit down and
Make
do.
sure everything that you want to do for CHIPS is eligible based on the 10-year
Yeah,
look back.
we can do that. Whenever it's good for you, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll catch up with you.
Yeah, all right. How soon would you have pricing on the recoat work so that you know how much that takes out of your
I'm
funding?
gonna hopefully hear, what is this? This is April. I'm gonna try to get a hold of him like real soon before the price of oil really goes through the roof, so.
Okay. I'm told by a bird in the chat that funding for CHIPS is fully funded in 2021. It was 2020 where they were withholding the 5%.
Well, the 2020 is where they held back that 20%. So now this year they're only gonna withhold 5% for 2021. So.
Okay. Temporarily until.
Correct. Yeah, until they figure out what they're gonna do. So we're gonna get our paved New York and our extreme weather, but it's gonna be like, it's cut down quite a bit. So instead of, because in the past we got like 21,000 for the paved New York and extreme weather is 17,000. I don't have the sheet in front of me, so I think the paved New York this year is gonna be like $2,500, somewhere's in there. So yeah, it's kind of, but I'll take whatever I can get. And I think we got that 20% they held last year, we got that this year too, so.
Yeah.
That's all gonna help out.
Okay, anything else for Bob? Thank you, Bob. The supervisor's report is kind of a mixed bag here. First, I'm just announcing, you saw it in the paper, that there's a public hearing a week from tonight on the special use permit for a gravel mine, Ray Palmer on Route 21. And that's going to be in the boardroom. The next thing is the information that, and thank you, Wendy, for doing this. Wendy forwarded the information on the marijuana taxation and regulation legislation. And reading through that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wendy, the one thing we'll have to consider by the end of this fiscal year is, or calendar year, is whether or not we want to prevent cannabis dispensaries in the town of Alfred. Correct?
Correct. There were about 9 different pieces of licensing in the law as a whole, and only 2 of them gave the towns any latitude. And one was the dispensary, the ability to the retail sales, and the other was the consumption sites. And apparently those often go together. Those are the 2 that we have some say in, and primarily our say is whether we choose to opt out and prevent their existence in the town.
Now, in terms of the sales tax, from reading what you forwarded, it seemed like the town would get a portion of the 13% sales tax that's imposed on cannabis sales directly from New York State Department of Finance and Taxation, that it would not go through the county.
No, there was 13% total. And out of that, 4% comes to the county, and of the 4%, the county keeps 1% and 3 would come to the town. There's so many layers. I needed a roadmap.
But I got the impression that the county didn't get it. It didn't go through their hands. It was like they got 1 and we got the 3.
That could be. They didn't talk much about the mechanism.
I think
They
it
were
does
clear
go
that
through
it
the
couldn't be
county.
held back.
I thought it went through the county.
Yeah,
No,
I'm pretty sure it goes through the county.
It was a quick read.
Does it? Okay.
But they can't hold it back.
The interesting thing about it is in Allegheny County, nobody gets sales tax.
Right. They
from
made
the
a very
county,
clear,
right? They don't distribute it.
very clear point that this had nothing to do with county sales tax sharing agreements. The two aren't related.
You don't get sales tax, but the county pays community college fees. and that
Right,
in lieu of-
right, that's the rationale, but unlike Steuben County, the cities and villages, but we don't have any cities, we have only villages, and they don't get any sales tax. But the point is, we would get some money out of it, I guess.
Were we to allow it, yes, there would be
Yes.
some revenue if someone opened a dispensary.
Are there any vacant buildings in the town?
The bank,
The old town hall, yeah, there you go. That'd be a good use for the bank.
drive through.
Drive through.
Oh, God.
I think that was illegal.
Yeah.
Well, we have time to consider that. Okay. Now, according to what Jan has gotten and what the Association of Towns has forwarded to us or made available, the town is going to get about $120,000 out of the federal COVID relief funds. And we get half of it in this year and half next year. And right now, can only be spent on lost revenue from COVID, which I don't think affects us. Water, sewage, and broadband, which basically means right now we can't spend any of it. So I'm hoping
Reimbursement
that,
for actual expenses, but I also didn't see much there.
yeah, I hope they're going to liberalize the categories for spending it because we won't be able to. So I guess we'll find out more about that.
There's a lot of unknowns on how it can be spent.
Yeah, I guess this is the night of unknowns.
No.
Unknowns about the cannabis and about the new laws for siting solar and federal relief monies.
Justin Henry was just cited that you can use it to supplement what your justice revenue was down because the court's being closed, that you could reimburse the town for that loss of revenue.
Okay,
I don't.
okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a lot, but it's
No.
something. It would-
And the other thing I have is, I think by next month's meeting, we need to decide if we're going to go with BBS bookkeeping services. That would be in May. If we go with them, that would give them a chance to come on board the 1st of June. So what is the thinking at this point? I don't think we have to decide it tonight. I think I probably want to just talk over some more things with Jan, but what does the board think about this at this point?
I thought it sounded pretty solid. I don't recall seeing a quote. Have we received a quote on the services?
Yeah, we did.
We-
Oh,
I think it was last month, wasn't it?
yeah, I just.
Justin said
saw
he's
it.
about to get it for us.
Is he still on? Yep, Justin is still on.
I'm sure it's in my email. I can take it out.
Yeah, we have a quote. It was like,
It was like
I
9 or
don't know,
10,
I'm going to
wasn't
be
it?
quiet.
Yeah, there it is. Got it.
It was something like 10,000, then 2,500 to set up something else. I can't remember exactly how, but I do have it here.
Okay. Well, we don't need to decide that now, but I just wanted to get the general feeling of the group. If anybody wanted to comment on it.
It seems pretty straightforward. They're familiar with how this all works. I think it would just be the adjustment for us and the calculation of cost.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to me. And I was impressed with the way he costed out his estimate, that his approach of an algorithm made good sense.
Mhm.
So let's plan on voting on that next month. Any other comments on that before we move on? Jen, anything in the town clerk's report?
No. Nope, it's been pretty
Okay.
quiet.
I want to go into executive session at the end of the meeting to talk about personnel matters. And do we have anything else we want to discuss before that time?
I have a couple questions. I feel like I always have questions. Is there a final audit report will be forthcoming at some point?
Yes,
We were notified we were supposed to hear from them and that didn't happen, which is fine.
Right.
I'd like to learn more about the process and see what a report comes out looking like.
as it turned, do we talk about that now, Jan, or in executive?
You can just comment that there is a report forthcoming.
Very good.
And if any of the board members would like to speak with the auditor, I have his contact information and he will be glad to talk to you.
Sure. Okay.
In fact, we met with the auditor today.
Okay.
Jan and I did. But what he told us, everything now is confidential because the report is in the works.
Okay. I see.
If a town board wants to call him and ask what's in the report, I believe he will give you a summary. But it is not available to the public yet.
Because his report has to go up the chain of command, get
It's
blessed by all the
Mhm.
higher powers. So he
It's
doesn't want to
just right
release.
now, it's
anything.
not a done product.
Right.
And my other question was whether there's anything to report on the sidewalk.
No, we're still
Okay.
waiting for final approval, DOT,
Okay.
on the water drainage. And as soon as we get that, then we can go to the next step.
Very good.
Okay, anything else? Okay, what I'd like to do is move a motion that we go into executive session. And I think Ian, everyone except the board gets can be put into not a holding pen, what do you call
Yeah,
it?
I can put them in the waiting room.
The waiting room.
Yep, and I'll pause the recording.
And then when we come back, they can be released from the holding pen if they are still
Right.
there.
Anybody that decides to hang around, I'll bring back in.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I move we go into executive session. Is there a motion or a second to my motion?
I'll second.
second it.
Or Bill can.
Okay, Bill, thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're moving into executive session.
Okay, give me just a second. I'll shuffle people out here. Put that precarious guy out of meeting room. Bob can hang out, right? Okay, or no.
What do you want me to do?
Let Bob go.
Put it in the holding pen.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, I'll see you, Bob.
Dan, I'll talk to you tomorrow, Dan.
Yes,
Thanks,
I'll
Bob.
sign that. Yeah, thanks, Bob.
All right, and recording. Give me a second here. I'm gonna pause.
In the full board meeting, and is there anybody in the holding pen, or what is it, the meeting room?
Jerry Snyder was in the holding pen, and I just let him back in. It says he's joining, so and I
No,
Okay.
he's not there. That's my other computer. Sorry.
Okay.
It's just Matthew's ghost. Okay.
Okay,
That's the back of my head.
I guess if there's nothing else, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Or just real quick for the discussion that we had regarding how we want to enter in Jan's agreement. Do we need to discuss that in open session for it to go into minutes, or we'll just agree to put it in the minutes as discussed?
I think we want to wait until we get it a little more clear.
Yeah, okay.
We'll run it by the auditor just to make sure, and then we'll write up some language and just enter it into the minutes.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
My only other comment would have been regarding the solar. I'm interested and a little disturbed that they seem to be able to bypass us to some degree, even though they want to follow our law. I'm a little nervous about that.
Yeah.
I would be curious to hear Bill's input on that at some point. And I'm very disappointed that the state decides what's prime farmland based just on the mineral content. Because some of that land is currently leased by my dad and used actively for the farm.
Does
it's up to the
anybody-
landowner what they do.
Does anybody know what they're paying these landowners for the leases?
I think it's pretty significant.
Hmm.
My dad was approached, I don't think it was this company, but a few years ago, he was offered $8,000 an acre for some farmland to buy it outright for solar.
Is it public, is it public information on who those landowners are?
Well,
you
Kelly
could
Giganti was the largest, and the Lloyds are a part of it.
It'd be easily discovered by the
Yeah,
tax maps.
Given the map they gave us. Yeah.
And
You
they're
said,
not
who
buying
else, who else did you say, Matthew?
The Lloyds.
Yeah,
Gary Lloyd, and then Kelly Giganti, she was on the call. She owns most of that.
What's her name
center of
again,
it.
Matthew?
Kelly Giganti. She doesn't live locally, but the former McAndrews farm, she's the daughter and the inheritor.
Oh, okay.
But they're not
Okay.
buying the land, they're leasing it, right?
Right.
They're just leasing it,
Right.
yeah.
Lease.
Well, I say good for the landowners if they can get some lease money.
Yeah.
I
Not
think
good
we
for the
need to be,
people
try to be
farming it.
sensitive. Sorry. I think we need to try to be sensitive to what costs are going to fall on us, like dirt roads that aren't going to hold up under those heavy trucks.
Well, I think Jan made a good point that when she and I were discussing this, we need to have a voice with the county when this pilot is determined.
Yeah, big time.
It's not really the county that does it, it's the IDA.
Well,
How is that even legal?
Because the IDA is the only one that can negotiate a pilot. And I believe they have already talked to Craig Clark. I believe they have talked to him already.
Who is in charge of the IDA? Who administers
Craig
that?
Clark.
Craig Clark.
Okay. All right.
He's one of the big, yeah. I actually sent a link to the meeting tonight to Keir Durham, because I know Craig is in his office quite often over there, just so he could watch if they were interested, but I'm pretty sure they've already been in touch.
Some of this information on here was a little unclear. Like, I think I understand the pilot agreement, but the host community agreement, I don't know what that really entails. So I guess
that
we
was
have to do
where I
some
think you
homework.
mentioned a possible decrease in community residents' electric rate, things like that would fall in the.
Did that fall under the host community?
That's how I understood it.
I remember her saying something about that.
But you're right. I wonder if I know that host community agreements were part of the whole wind farm discussion out, in parallel with whatever pilot was entered into with the county. So those are definitely two conversation threads that we want to put ourselves into to the greatest extent.
Yeah, I think I'll give Craig Clark a call and just see.
Yeah,
Because I don't understand how these IDAs work, because I thought IDAs were like constrained by a certain area, but apparently they can be anywhere in the county they want to.
right, because it's not affiliated with Allegheny County government, but it's the Allegheny County IDA. So it's the IDA for Allegheny County, for the count, not the government county, but just the county as a whole.
That's why the pilot is so weird to me, because pilot is in lieu of taxes and they're not a government agency.
Well, evidently they have the authority to negotiate the pilot.
They are the only ones that can negotiate a pilot. I actually asked Craig that the other day, and he said that is correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see if I can find out some more about it. We want to get our share.
And if it works like past pilots that the town has had, we get the least amount of money because they base it off your tax rate. That's how it's been done in the past. So I'm hoping maybe, Dan, you can convince them not to do it that way this time, because our tax rate per thousand is the lowest, obviously. And I believe the school district up there is Andover.
Yeah.
Well, that's Alfred Almond too.
I think, I'm not sure. I think it's all Andover.
Huh.
That sounds border, but I think you're right, Jan.
Yeah, part of County 12 switches to Andover.
And Canyon Road is Andover.
But there's a
McAndrews Road.
Yep.
The town line
McAndrews
is
is
Hess Road, but
Andover?
the district line is different.
Because the bus turns around down there just past, I don't know, just, I thought past Freddy's.
Well, for example, Joe Menachino's kids all went to Andover.
Okay.
And
The other thing about the-
Don Lang and all of them on Canyon went to Andover.
Mhm. Yeah, the other thing about the pilot is depreciation schedules. You know, I've read, particularly with solar installations, they like to leverage the fact that the things depreciate. And I wonder if their depreciation schedule will outlive the pilot or not, and how that might impact the revenues from the pilot.
A normal pilot is 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, okay.
And they were talking about a longer life than that and either renewing it or extending it. So then does it revert to the tax base?
Is the way my understanding is, once a pilot is up, it becomes fully taxable.
That's what I thought. Oh, okay.
But
And she was talking longer than 5 or 10 years life.
it's taxed based on its appraised value, and if they depreciate it heavily in the first 10 years,
Right.
what's it
Right.
worth on paper? You know,
Right.
that's the catch. So, yeah.
I'll see what I can find out.
Well, it looks like it won't be done for a while, so. But
they have a pretty aggressive schedule.
I want to know where they're going to find all these people to work.
They'll bring them in
What-
from Rochester.
What unions are they going to?
They'll
Yeah,
bring them in from
Rochester,
Rochester.
Buffalo, probably.
Yeah, and they'll say it's local.
Yeah. Yeah, and where are they going to stay?
There are, well, our new neighbor, Bill, the guy that bought Vesti's house.
Yeah.
He's an electrician. He works out of
Yeah.
a union in, I don't know, Big Flats or something,
Oh,
Yeah.
there-
or Syracuse. So there's at least one guy who's union.
Yeah, you just need 150 more.
That'd be a tough trick.
I just think it's funny, somebody from Canada moving in on a project like this. We can't do it in our own country.
It's
Yeah, I thought that was
interesting, isn't it?
interesting too.
I
I'm
mean,
just glad they want to do it here.
I'm amazed they're doing it in New York State. But on the other hand, 150 people working in the town, they're going to need something, places to eat and gas. And so just those couple of years of construction could bring some major revenue.
But
Yeah,
the construction's less than a year, isn't it?
yeah. But still,
Yeah.
a year of construction will help.
Yeah.
Oh,
Time to get a food truck going.
there you go.
Support the Palmer's Little Sicily's.
There you go. No, I understand it's now pizza and ice cream.
I just
That's-
heard today that it's going to be a drive-through before it's done.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Interesting.
Hopefully opening soft launch in the summer, I guess.
Interesting. Okay, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
You need one, do you?
Second.
It doesn't
We
take
need
a
a
vote. I
second,
think
we
you
don't
just
need a
need,
vote.
I think you need
Yeah,
a
yeah,
second.
I don't
but you
think you
have
need
to-
a second.
Really? I
I
I
thought
think you need a
needed
second, but not a vote.
I think you need a second,
Oh,
but no
okay.
vote.
Okay,
So we're adjourned.
Need a
we are.
second.
Thank you
Good night,
all.
all.
Thanks.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.